And then, no, why don't you tell, can you tell? Should we get started?
Yes.
So, Marlene, don't sit that way all the time. Because I won't.
This,
No, because I'm going to be anyway.
so where do you want?
No, here is fine, but I'm saying don't be so far over. Maybe you want to. No. I mean, don't turn your chair.
Just stay
That
this
way.
way.
Right.
I was just looking at her because she's going to speak. I
No,
thought it was
You're
polite.
right. You're right. Don't turn.
Turn that on.
That's on?
Yep. I did go to charm school, if I didn't share that.
You probably did. Not that I did.
I did. But
That's on?
super charm school. Nerds do. They actually were in Queensborough. I'll tell you that.
Good evening. Good evening. Would everybody please take their seats? Good evening. If everybody could please take their seats. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ann Burton Walsh, and I serve as co-president of the League of Women Voters of Ridgewood, alongside Ann Malone, my co-president. On behalf of the League, we want to welcome everyone to tonight's Candidates Forum for Village Council. As is our practice before debates, we would like to begin tonight's forum with a flag salute. If you would please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The League's goal is to promote the informed and active participation in government, and voting is an important form of participating in government. Therefore, the League is committed to providing factual information about issues and the candidates' positions on those issues to help voters make their own decisions and participate in the process. The League is one of the oldest nonprofit civic organizations. In an era where trust is in short supply, I think we can all agree, the League takes its reputation for nonpartisanship and fairness seriously and does not align itself with or support or oppose any candidate for public office or political party. A few quick notes before we begin. Our questions committee received a large number of questions, but given time constraints, had to choose just a few. They've attempted to cover as many topics as possible. However, if you have a completed question card and hold it up, somebody should come around to collect it. To learn about the candidates, more about the candidates, you can visit vote411.org, a League-sponsored service. Just type in your street address, if you're a registered voter, click submit, and then scroll down to the green button that says save and view races. You can then see all of the races in which you can vote and learn more about the candidates. We have a link to Vote 411 on our website, lwvridgewoodnj.org. I believe that the candidates have put campaign material in the back of the room. Is that correct? Oh, outside. So if you'd like to pick that up. You'll also find information about early voting at the back table. If you'd like to visit us at the League of Women Voters, our next general meeting is tomorrow, October 17th at 12:30 p.m. in this building in the Senior Center on the first floor. Feel free to drop in as a guest for a meeting. All people ages 16 and up are welcome regardless of gender or citizenship status, including non-Ridgewood residents. We ask that everybody please refrain from using the League name or any photographs or footage from the debate in campaign materials. Any such use has not been authorized by the League. Please also turn off your cell phones. I'd like to thank LWV Ridgewood Voter Service Co-Chair Joan Burns for all of her work in putting this forum together, along with the Voter Service Committee and the Questions Subcommittee. Thank you, too, to the Village Hall staff who helped set this up. Finally, our moderator tonight is Vicki Sidrow. Ms. Sidrow is a member of the Northern Valley League of Women Voters, is not a Ridgewood resident, and is a trained moderator. Ms. Sidrow will introduce the candidates and explain the format for tonight's debate. She will also adhere to a strict time schedule in order to ensure fairness. We ask that you provide her and the candidates with courtesy and respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann, and the League of Women Voters of Ridgewood for inviting me back again this year. It's always a pleasure. Thank you for coming out tonight. I know there's always so many competing events, so you're applauded for coming out to hear the candidates tonight. So you go to the poll on November 5th, or early voting October 26th, or mail your ballot in. So many ways to vote these days, which is wonderful. You'll have heard you need to vote for 3 out of 4 candidates, so you'll get to hear their responses to a number of questions tonight. So there's multi-parts to this event. If you've been to one of our debates before, the candidates have opening remarks. The League formulated 2 questions which they pre-sent, so the candidates have seen them in advance. They'll answer those questions, and then there'll be the questions that either people emailed in or you handed in tonight. So we're going to get going here. So for opening remarks, we're going in reverse alphabetical order. So Mr. Vagianos, please, 1.5 minutes.
Thank you, Vicki. Good evening, everyone, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this incredibly important event. I'm Paul Vagianos, and over the years, I've done a lot of stuff. I'm an attorney. I'm a former Deputy Attorney General. I've been General Counsel to an environmental company. I've been a college professor at Manhattan College, and I've been president of the Chamber of Commerce right here in Ridgewood. But 28 years ago, I moved my family here to Ridgewood to open It's Greek to Me restaurant. It changed my life. I fell in love with a community that has been very, very good to me over the years. I have 2 wonderful daughters who are in their 30s. They each attended Hawes Elementary School, BF Middle School, and Ridgewood High School. They're doing great. I also have 2 magnificent granddaughters, Tatum and Beckham. Hi, girls. I am married for 40 years, and if I play my cards right, next month it's going to be 41. In my 28 years in Ridgewood, I did more stuff, though. During the pandemic, I worked with an amazing team of people and 600 volunteers and ran Feed the Front Lines, where we served 450,000 meals to hungry people and those on the front line of the pandemic. With some of those same amazing people, I built and ran the pedestrian plaza that kept our downtown alive when others across the country were dying. And beginning in 2008 and to this day, with some more amazing people, I bring in our village Christmas tree. It has been my honor and my pleasure to serve this community that I love so dearly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Pam Perrone, 1.5 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Pam Perrin, Deputy Mayor, wife, mother, and longtime resident. I'm also a proud graduate of Somerville Elementary School, BF, and Ridgewood High School, as are all of my 3 children and my husband. After my 40-year career as a lawyer, I decided to devote myself full-time to Ridgewood Matters. I serve on the Planning Board and several other important committees. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting us tonight. I joined the League about 10 years ago, and this event, this exercise in democratic process, is what got me interested in municipal government. My goals over the next 4 years will be to keep property tax increases low. Budgeting the council is the council's primary responsibility. Yet with rising costs, like employee health care, that's difficult. Also, revitalizing downtown is imperative, and that's why I'm working to create an improvement district downtown. Also, we must protect our environment for future generations. Climate crisis has arrived with intense rainstorms and, on the flip side, drought. I intend to follow the Army Corps of Engineers recommendations and the game plan that we got from Columbia University School of Public Affairs. Stormwater management and trees are not sexy, but that will be involved.
Thank you. Mr. Frank Mortimer, 1.5.
Hi, I'm Frank Mortimer, and I'm running for Village Council. First, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters, everyone here tonight, and everyone watching from home. Many of you know me as Frank the Bee Man because over the years I've helped so many people with their bee questions. I've given talks at our schools, and I run Frank's Honey. Professionally, I'm a marketing executive, and I've spent most of my career in college publishing textbooks. Additionally, I teach at Cornell University, and I authored a nonfiction book that was reviewed by the New York Times. I've been a Ridgewood resident for 13 years, and it's the first place I've ever lived that truly feels like home. I'm a proud husband. My son is and a proud father. My son is in college, and my 2 children go to Travell. Go Tigers. I'm here tonight because I want to help this great village continue to be the best place to live now and long into the future, which is why I'm so committed to giving back. I have a long history of civic leadership, and it's my experience of working for the good of Ridgewood that shows my commitment to the village and that I have the experience it will take to make a positive difference. In 2017, I championed for Ridgewood to be certified as New Jersey's first Bee City USA. It was the first of many village initiatives that I led. I've been a member of Ridgewood's Parks, Rec, and Conservation Board for over 5.5 years, and I currently serve as their vice chair. I'm a member of Green Ridgewood. I'm a member of the Ridgewood Guild, and for the thousands of residents that were at Oktoberfest last weekend, I'm on the steering committee to make that a success year over year. I'm very proud to be running for council, and I hope to be a new voice for Ridgewood. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Hanju Quack, thank you.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters and everyone here, here and online. My name is Hyunji Kwak. I've had the honor of serving 2 terms on the Board of Education. During my tenure as president, including as president and chair of negotiations, I helped lead the settlement of the teacher union contract for the first time before its expiration in 18 years. Now I'm stepping up to serve you on Village Council. When I came to the U.S. at age 10, I settled nearby with my family in Bergen County, and I helped my parents with their family store. Those experiences taught me the value of hard work and resilience, values I bring to public service. My first job was actually as a cashier at the local supermarket, and I worked to put myself through Brown University and later earned an MBA from Wharton. I have work experience as a management consultant, did business development at NBC TV, and equity research at Merrill Lynch. When we bought our home in Ridgewood in 2003, it was an American dream come true. Now I'm stepping up to give back to the village I love. With your vote, I'll focus on efficient allocation of your tax dollars, prioritize clean water, environmental safety, proactive store management, and practicing open governance, listening and being accountable to you. I humbly ask for your support, your single vote to work for all of you at Ridgewood. Vote Hyunju Kwak, public servant with a proven track record.
Thank you. Okay, now for the League-formulated questions. Question number 1. The current Village Council passed a resolution in support of a large, full-size sports field at the Schindler property with artificial turf. Do you support the full-size playing field design? Do you support the use of artificial turf on playing fields in general and specifically at the Schindler property? Mr. Mortimer, 1 minute.
So first, let's talk about why this
1.5,
question
I take it back, 1.5 minutes.
Yeah.
First, let's talk about why this question is being asked. It's because our kids need more fields to play on, and that's a fact, not opinion. There's national and state benchmarks that both say that based on the population of Ridgewood, we need more fields. So it's fact. And a good example of that is we have back-to-back state champions for flag football, and those girls don't have a home field. So we need more fields that everyone can play on. Second, There was a study done that looked at grass playing surfaces and the number of hours played. In Ridgewood, our fields average 1,000 hours a year playing time. At that level, per this peer-reviewed study, it said that the grass gets wiped out, the surface deteriorates, and it actually becomes a potential injury for the athletes that are playing on it. So that's significant because it just shows you that grass is not always the best answer. Additionally, what about the flooding? We had 3 floods in 4 months in the beginning of this year and the end of last year, and that's significant because our kids are losing playing time, they're not able to finish their season, or they're forced to play in the middle of the night at other towns. So we need to find fields outside of the flood zone that'll lessen this impact. And finally, this is a personal issue for me. My 10-year-old daughter is a big jock, athlete, as I'm told to say, because she plays soccer and lacrosse, and so the decisions made up here on the dais will affect me and my family forever. So based on the benchmarks, based on the heavy usage of glass field, I support our kids getting off their screens and getting outside playing, even if that means on turf fields. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kwok, 1.5 minutes.
I'm a proponent of natural grass at Shedler property. Artificial turf is a synthetic product known to contain PFAS or forever chemicals and microplastics. Installing artificial turf in the Shedler area where residents rely on well water will expose our neighbors to harmful chemicals. Natural grass, on the other hand, will protect the health and safety of everyone who lives and uses the park. Keep in mind that Ridgewood Water is expected to spend $130 to $150 million to remove PFAS from our drinking water, and the village is suing chemical companies in this contamination. Given this and the research being published, including player safety concerns, I recommend no more turf conversions in our town. We must also recognize that none of us here are health professionals, and we should seek expertise to keep the council and the residents informed regarding artificial turf. At the Shedler property, I support the design for a right-sized 75 by 50 field. The 75 by 50 size field was agreed upon in 2017 after careful review by the Shedler Ad Hoc Committee. That committee included members from the Village Council, sports groups, and residents. The right-size field would serve the needs of various sports groups, especially children under high school age, with around 1,000 Ridgewood youths participating. And that design already has state approval, and funding is in place to get that project done.
Thank you. Ms. Perrin?
I completely agree that Ridgewood needs more playing fields. When the Hohokus Brook floods, Brookside Field, the high school, Stevens, Vets, and Maple all flood. And Orchard Schools Field also has been out of commission for years. So I'm convinced that we lack sufficient fields for our athletes. And what we need is a large multi-use field at Shedler. However, I voted against the resolution because of the effect of artificial turf on human health and on the environment. It's just too risky. I've met with turf manufacturers, and they cannot guarantee that their product will not have PFAS in it. The alternative fill that Ridgewood would be interested in considering is more expensive than crumb rubber that was used in the past. Unfortunately, it has not been adequately studied by independent third parties, so we can't really know what the health risk is. It's a risk that I can't foist on residents. As an environmental matter, it's undeniably a plastic field that creates a heat island and contributes to global warming. Yes, I support a large grassed field at the Shedler property because it's on high ground and not in a flood zone. Moreover, that place has been an eyesore for years, so let's clean up the contamination and get this project done.
Thank you. Mr. Vagianos, 1.5 minute.
Thank you, Vicki. We are a school-age community that lives in a densely populated area in the most densely populated state in the country. As a result, we don't have nearly enough fields for our kids to play on. There isn't any available land in Ridgewood, and that's a problem. Our grass fields are so overused that in the spring of 2020, the village was forced to close the village-owned fields until the middle of May and we lost almost the entire season to allow the grass an opportunity to regrow. According to those national benchmarks that Frank referenced for parks and recreation, Ridgewood is deficient by 60 to 100 acres of parks and recreational land. In 2009, the Village Council purchased the Shedler property at the request of neighborhood residents so that we could build additional athletic fields. That was 15 years ago, and nothing has been done with it. Nothing. Since that time, climate change has perpetually flooded our communities, our homes, and our fields. Most recently, 3 times in 4 months this year. Brookside, Stadium, Veterans, Maple, Stevens, all in the same flood zone. When that happens, our sports teams are forced to travel to neighboring communities for practices that begin at 9 p.m. on a school night. This is Ridgewood. We have great schools, great community, but not enough fields for our kids to play on. It is completely unacceptable, and for these reasons, I support a turf field at Shedler.
Thank you. Any rebuttal? Mr. Vagianos?
Yes, I do have a rebuttal.
1 minute.
Yes, and Hunju, I know that you oppose the turf field at Shedler, but a couple of things. You voted to approve turf replacement twice when sitting on the Board of Education. On June 15th, 2020, at Stevens at a cost of $580,000, and on September 13th, 2021, at a cost of $150,000. And you reference the ad hoc committee's report that was in agreement on a certain size field. That report on page 10 not only says that they recommend the placement of a turf field, they recommend the particular name brand. It was Cool Play Turf. So you can't pick and choose from that report and say, well, I like this part of it, but I don't like that part of it. So again, it depends on the day.
Do I have a minute?
1 minute.
Great. Thank you, Paul, for the opportunity to reiterate my position. New information continues to emerge about the dangers posed by artificial turf since that 2017 agreement, not only regarding environmental impacts, but also concerning player safety. Our athletes come into close contact with harmful chemicals, and the turf can reach dangerously high temperatures in hot weather. I have voted to repair an existing turf field because the alternative of leaving it in disrepair is worse. Turf that is not maintained becomes unusable. If we don't replace the filler or rubber crumbs, it turns into a hard impact surface that's unsafe for players. The key takeaway there is that there should be no new turf conversions. We need to let the science, data, and health experts guide us. Once a new turf field is installed, converting it back to natural grass is extremely difficult.
Thank you. Mr. Mortimer?
I agree that we should use the most recent studies and we should use science to make our decisions. In April of this year, the Environmental Protection Agency, which is the federal agency that's designed to look after our health, published a study which can be found at epa.gov/tirecrumb, and it specifically says in its conclusions that playing on turf fields are safe. They checked the biometrics of people that played on that, compared it to people on turf, and the general population, there was no difference. Additionally, the EPA, which again is governing our health, quotes multiple studies across the U.S. as well as Europe, where they all say it is safe to play on turf. So yes, we should use science, and we should use the most recent science, and that's the EPA. And what else it says is there's over 12,000 turf fields being in use in this country. Millions of people play on it all the time. That's a big data set. This is not a toxic waste field. It's doing what has been shown to be safe and for everybody to use. Thank you.
Thank you. No? No? No, you,
Oh,
sorry,
this
there's no
one-
rebuttals to
thank you.
rebuttals. Okay, on to the second question. The tax burden on residents is becoming untenable. The population of seniors on a fixed income is significant, along with young families burdened by high home prices. To address financial stresses, how would you envision shared services such as police, fire, sanitation, schools, etc.? Ms. Perrin?
Looking for shared services is a good idea. We already share court personnel with other towns, our styrofoam densifier, and radio services. I would like to explore additional avenues with the Ridgewood Public School District for landscaping and possibly trash and recyclable collection. We haven't been able to do that in the past, but we have a new cast of characters now with a new superintendent and a new village manager, and so maybe they can work it out. As for public safety, it would be difficult to have shared services. Our fire department is a full-time civil service organization. Other towns have volunteer fire departments. Blending those would be very difficult, if not impossible. The police, well, we know and trust our police officers. We've known them since they were in high school, many of them, and we know how they are trained to de-escalate a situation. We don't know how the other towns' police are trained. So I don't know if that's possible either. But other avenues are to relieve the tax burden to create a SID, which I mentioned before, and also to use grant monies to offset expenditures. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vagianos, 1.5 minutes.
Thank you. Shared services is the future for us. We are a relatively large community surrounded by smaller communities. Each time we share services with our neighbors, we have an opportunity to defray our costs while saving our neighbors money. Ridgewood Water, we share services with Wyckoff, Midland Park, and Glen Rock. Municipal Court with Glen Rock and Wyckoff. Our 911 emergency response system is operated with Glen Rock for the benefit of several towns. Our health department, we share that with Mahwah and Norwood. Our styrofoam densifier that we purchased last year is utilized by 5 neighboring communities. But we can do so much more. There's shared services opportunities with the county that we have yet to explore. And I am in weekly contact with the mayor of Glen Rock, our sister community. And while police and fire shared services are off the table for me, as I believe it could impact public safety, the next big move is sanitation and recycling. We actually own our own sanitation company, and neighboring communities whose costs have skyrocketed in recent years are clamoring for us to work with them. The first step, though, Board of Education. We've already begun discussions with them to investigate how this can be done to save our resident taxpayers money. Next, we would move to neighboring communities. It makes too much sense and should have been done sooner. Stay tuned. I'll let you know how it goes.
Thank you. Ms. Quack, 1.5.
I believe shared services can be part of the solution, but they must be approached thoughtfully. For shared services to be effective, they need to make financial and operational sense for all parties involved. That paradigm works best when there's excess capacity or when we can partner to achieve economies of scale. For example, the Village Council implemented Master Library, a facilities reservation system first rolled out by the Board of Education, which allowed for favorable pricing for the village due to the same shared vendor. However, shared services are not a one-size-fits-all solution. Our police and fire department, they do excellent work, and we cannot compromise safety and response times. Instead, to further ease the tax burden, smart budgeting of municipal resources is essential. Optimizing Ridgewood Water and the parking utility can help with the overall fiscal health of the municipal budget. I first ran for the Board of Education to give back to Ridgewood by using my knowledge and expertise. During my time on the board, including serving as president, I worked to expand programs while keeping taxes in check. I'm comfortable managing complex financial issues and will work to protect you from rising taxes while preserving Ridgewood's high quality of life.
Thank you. Just a note from audio, you're talking too close to the mic so that the audio at home, because this is being live streamed, I believe, is a little garbled. So if you could just just sit back a little bit. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Mortimer, 1.5. For all, yeah, I don't know where she went. She said all of them. Yes, all of them. All of you. 1.5. Thank you.
All right, thank you. First, I think this question is excellent since New Jersey does have the highest property taxes in the nation. So it's something, this question is what all elected officials in the Garden State should be thinking of. We've heard it all from the other candidates. Shared services is key. And that's because sharing employees and equipment to other towns and municipalities can raise revenue and also reduce our cost. We've all said the styrofoam densifier because it's fun to say, and also it does save money. And the extra bonus to that is it's good for the environment. And just to go on that tangent for a moment, I think it's important to find services that Ridgewood, as the environmental leader, can share with the municipalities, and the styrofoam densifier is an excellent example of that. Additionally, as Pam said, we share our health services employee with MAWA. That reduces our cost by saving on her salary. And I think what we should look at is capital improvements in infrastructure. Like we currently we share with Glen Rock with radios, antenna, and repeaters with them. What other municipalities can we share those with? And I also like to say that I stand with everyone else up here that I don't believe that we should go after police and fire. I was in criminal justice education for over 15 years, and I believe in public safety. And having a community, and what makes Ridgewood so special is that we know our police chief. We know who patrols our neighborhood. And having that is something that I don't think that we should give up. Thank you.
Thank you. Any rebuttals? Okay, we're going to move on to questions from the audience. First question. We are in a housing crisis in New Jersey. The need for more affordable and accessible housing is of a major concern. Would you support accessible housing units in Ridgewood? Based on data, 214,000 are needed in New Jersey. So, Ms. Kwok, would you go first, please? 1 minute.
Was the question, would you support
Accessible housing units in Ridgewood?
Accessible. Okay.
Accessible housing units.
No.
It says accessible.
Okay. Sorry.
So,
Yes.
so did someone here ask this
Sorry.
question? Is it
Accessory.
accessory? Okay.
Accessory.
So accessory, like ADUs, okay, accessory dwelling, I don't know if you know what those are at all. Accessory dwelling units? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, Ms. Kwok, 1 minute.
Accessory dwelling units are an interesting solution to solve the housing crisis. That has to do with zoning, as long as we're compliant with them, but I think that is a valid path to explore that.
Thank you, Ms. Perrin.
I'm very interested in ADUs, accessible dwelling units. That is,
Accessory.
excuse me, accessory dwelling units. Yes, ADUs, that's easier. They make it easier for an older parent to move into a smaller area, or for a young, recent college graduate to move in to a place that's not as expensive, or to help out another person who's living in the main house. There are many reasons why this could work. I've been approached by Age-Friendly Ridgewood, and this is something I think we should be looking further into.
Thank you, Mr. Badginot.
Yeah, ADUs are a very interesting concept. They are not a panacea. They're great when you want your mother-in-law or your father-in-law or your parent to move in. Somewhere down the road, though, and what we're basically talking about is turning the garage into an apartment. And that's terrific. Except down the road, when the original tenant is no longer there, now it just becomes an apartment, and anyone can move in. Years ago, we used to allow flag lots, which meant that you could build a house behind your house. We don't allow that anymore. We didn't want the density, and again, this was a decision long before me. Accessory dwelling units are certainly a good concept, but we really need to flesh this out, because at some point, that senior member of the family moves out, and now we just have apartment rentals in residential neighborhoods.
Thank you. Mr. Mortimer?
Our village is so great in part because of the planning board as well as the zoning board. And they have thought through things like this to keep our town having the character that it has. And as Paul mentioned, the concern is not for the parents or the family member that's renting that place, but in the future. Because once it's there, it'll be there forever. And so my concern with these would be, what about in the future? Then does Ridgewood, it's almost like having, dual ownerships there in the house. Like, could you sell that and keep your house? And that could double our residents. And I just think that would impact our character, and I would tend to go with what the zoning and planning board is already doing, which is to say, no, it's not a good idea.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Perrin?
I serve on the planning board as well as on the village council, and I can just let you know that traffic and density also is a concern with ADUs.
Okay, next question. What programs would you put in place for the senior citizens in the village? Mr. Vagianos, 1 minute.
This one's a layup. Thank you so much. Our seniors pay full ride and get a third of the services that we offer. We need to make this, as I've said many times, Ridgewood has always been a great place to raise your kids. Let's make this a great place to live once your kids have grown. There are two advantages to this. First of all, people aren't going to leave if they've got a great community and a great community supporting them. So we need more programs. We need to expand the senior bus. We need to make it a place where they're just having a great time. Why? Well, I'm 67 years old, and I want to have some of these great programs really soon. Beyond that, it makes financial sense for our community because you have seniors who are paying full ride but not burdening our school system at all. It's a win-win for everybody.
Thank you. Mr. Mortimer?
So on Parks and Rec board, which I've been on for 5.5 years, one of the things that we do there is the community center, which is for seniors. And we talk about this a lot of different programs, so I do appreciate the question. And I think that one of the things that the village is doing great under this current board is they've expanded communication to make people more aware. And I think that's part of, for seniors, is to let them know all the stuff that we have going on in town. And I would, as we talk about on Parks and Rec every month, what is more things that we could do? And I think it's to do activities that are meaningful and not trite, and that will be diverse enough that people can enjoy what they want to do while they're living in one of the greatest towns in America. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Perrin?
Here's something I've been thinking about for the last 4 years and more, is a jitney for people who cannot or will not be able to drive downtown and back home. A jitney going up and down Ridgewood Avenue from east to west, west to east, so that people can come downtown, get their shopping done, or commute without the need for a car. I think the time has come for this idea. The other thing I think that would really benefit our seniors is some sort of snow removal service. We have lots of recreation for seniors, but we don't have a concerted snow removal service at their homes.
Thank you. Ms. Kwok?
I'm blessed to have seniors, relatives staying, living close to us in Ridgewood, and this is such a pertinent question. Having an age-friendly community that supports multi-generational living, that adds to the vibrant and the rich character of Ridgewood. The seniors, it's about mobility issues. So the idea of jitney is really interesting. Already we do have taxi vouchers that provide transportation at greatly reduced rates. Those are expansion of services I fully support. I think that having additional programming, for example, having workshops on teaching seniors how to safely fall, those kind of initiatives will definitely encourage seniors that there is an active place for them here in Ridgewood and they should stay here. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. As climate change is affecting our weather conditions, causing climate change is affecting our weather conditions, causing extreme heat and flooding in the village. Are you willing to support the maintenance of Ridgewood's tree canopy by budgeting sufficient funds such that more trees are planted in a given year than are removed? Ms. Perrin?
Absolutely. Since I've been on the council, 681 trees have been planted. This has been a concerted effort on the part of the council for at least 3 or 4 years. It is part of our master plan. It's one of the key goals of our master plan, and we are pursuing this actively.
Thank you, Ms. Quack.
Tree canopies are essential, and like I said, they add to the character of our village. I'm actually going to be the tree captain this weekend, so I'm really looking forward to helping out in that regard to add additional trees and preserve the character of our town. It has to do with flood mitigation. Those efforts are critical, and we can not only in terms of preserving the tree canopy and adding to it, but plantings of water-absorbing trees like willows, and we have to do silt containment and renewed efforts to clear the debris from our brooks. That, in conjunction with working with the Army Corps of Engineers, will address the flooding in addition to tree canopy.
Thank you, Mr. Mortimer.
Yes. Trees are so important, and one of the great things, Pam and I both are on Green Ridgewood, and so talking about flooding and climate change is, we speak about monthly. And so absolutely trees are important for controlling flooding, for the look of Ridgewood, as well as just helping. And additionally, I'd like to take this moment to address one of the misinformation that's out there about Shedler, because people talk about the trees being cut down for the park. However, if you look at Appendix 25, it says that more trees will be planted than were taken down. And that's because this council and myself are committed to having a tree canopy, and that includes Shedler. Thank you.
1 minute. Mr. Vagianos, 1 minute.
Thank you. In one of my very first votes on the council, I, along with Pam, heard a presentation from Carolyn Jacoby and the Shade Tree Commission, in which I learned to use the term infrastructure in referring to our shade tree canopy, that it is as much a part of our infrastructure as the sidewalks, as the roads, as Ridgewood water. We need to preserve this. And we've lost so many trees because of the, what is the name of that gypsy moth thing? Whatever. It killed a lot of trees. Thank you. Emerald ash borer. No shouting from the audience. Emerald ash borer. And so we need to do this. And in that very first year, we voted to spend, they asked us for $600,000 to replant trees, hoping that we would give them some significant amount. We voted to give them $600,000, and we will do it again. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Quack, 30 seconds.
No, this is a rebuttal question. Can I do
So
that?
you're rebutting?
No, I had a question. Yes,
You're-
yes. So,
30 seconds.
yes. So one of the elements that came up just now was about the Shedler property and how the trees will be cut, but they'll be replaced. The reality is that trees take decades for them to reach full maturity. In the meantime, we're talking about saplings. There's no comparison. If you are for the tree canopy, for preserving the rich character of our beautiful landscape, then you would not be in favor of cutting down any trees, period.
Can I rebut?
Sure.
The plan
30
with
seconds.
Shedler is to build an entire park that includes a parking lot that you can access the home with. It includes a passive walking trail. Any way that that park is developed, regardless if it's turf or grass, trees will be cut. And that's why it's important to make sure that they're replaced. Thank you.
Okay. Next question. As students, there are students here tonight, of Ridgewood High School, how will the outcome of this election affect our day-to-day lives? Mr. Vagianos?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
As students of, so this is a question from high school students?
No, I didn't hear it.
Oh, I'm sorry. As students of Ridgewood High School, how would the outcome of this election affect our day-to-day lives? 1 minute.
As students of Ridgewood High School,
So the students are asking this question: how will this election affect my life as a high
affect
school
their
student?
lives?
Yes.
Oh, now I understand. Now I understand.
Yes.
Yeah, listen, every election is critical. How this will affect your lives, for those of you who use our parks and our fields, for those of you who are student athletes, and for those of you who are not student athletes who just use the fields and want to use them, there are those of us who support building more fields. We need more fields. And we are building them not for me, not for Pam, not for my kids, because they don't live in town. We're building them for you. We're building them because you need them, so that, as I said before, if you play on a team and we have a flood, you're not going to Waldwick or some other town to get whatever playing time they can give you at 9 o'clock at night on a school night. So that's a direct impact on your life.
Thank you. Ms. Perrin?
Good local governance affects everything you do in town. It affects how you can drive safely on the roads, whether you can walk without being mugged at night, and whether you can see where you're going from the lights. Everything you do in town is affected by good governance.
Thank you. Mr. Mortimer?
So one of the things that I'm running on is pedestrian safety. My daughters, who are at Travell, go Tigers, are not in high school yet, but I want to make sure that the roads are safe for them as they walk back from school. Unfortunately, I believe it was last week that there were 2 high school students that were struck by cars in downtown Ridgewood. And that's why I'm so motivated to work on pedestrian safety. And how that'll impact you is I want to make it safer for you when you're walking to school or walking to get lunch at times, because this should be a pedestrian-first town. And the way to do that is to make sure that there's more pedestrian crossings. So when you hit it, get the blinky lights, that there's, at different intersections, that sight lines are clear, so we don't have people hitting and getting in accidents or hitting people, which is even worse. And finally, I want to work to have stricter enforcement of our speed limits, as well as some of the other ordinances that'll protect people. So I do hope that I can make your life better by making it safer for you to walk around. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Quack?
So unlike being on the Board of Education, which has deals with your high school experience, what we deal with, what the Village Council deals with, is everything else, your entire quality of life, encompassing garbage pickup, leaf, snow, clean water with Ridgewood Water. So it's imperative that people participate, that they vote locally, and understand the issues. It is the way we interact and use the services that impact our day-to-day experience of being a resident of this wonderful community. I'm talking about road safety, pedestrian safety, environmental safety, everything from the water to lighting. So please participate. Thank you for the question, but it really is your everyday experience as a resident of this wonderful community.
Yes, Ms. Perrin?
I forgot to say, if you learn to swim at Graydon Pool, that's a municipal facility. If you've ever used the library, that's a municipal facility. So those are 2 more aspects that should affect your daily life.
Thank you. Next question. Are you open to a cannabis retailer in the village? Mr. Mortimer?
I would like to say that I am green, but I mean a different type of green. So unfortunately, I am not in favor of opening that up in downtown. I think that, for those of us that go into the city or who live in the city, we've seen those spot all over the place, and I think it creates a lot of other issues. So I would not be in favor of doing that in our village.
Thank you. Ms. Quack?
I mean, in terms of the cannabis retailing, there are zoning rules by municipality. I'm not familiar with what those zoning rules here in Ridgewood, but in other municipalities, you can't locate them within X number of feet of, obviously, schools or nurseries or playground areas. So there are some protections in place, but having a cannabis retailer in downtown, it certainly will add to the experience of coming to downtown. I'm not sure how positive it will be, but that would have to be a zoning question in terms of permitting that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perrin.
I'm not ready for that yet. No.
Okay, Mr. Vagianos?
You won't need your timer on this. No.
Thank you. Next question. Actually, there's two in here. Other towns have recently sold off their municipal water companies to ward off price hikes to address PFAS treatments and provide adequate supply. What is your position on Ridgewood Water's ability to serve the community with quality water? And would you be in favor of outsourcing it to a water company like Suez? Mr. Vagianos.
Absolutely no outsourcing of Ridgewood Water. It is an asset that is so valuable to our municipality going forward. Remember, we make money on this. We will make money on this for ages to come. The issues that we have with Ridgewood Water are twofold. One is PFAS, which that project that was started in 2019 and that has been perpetuated by this council will be completed in 2026, at which point our PFAS levels will be reduced to undetectable levels when most municipalities across the country are just getting started because the EPA just passed rules on this. But secondly, the infrastructure that has created recent issues for our community and for surrounding communities has been a problem because this 120-year-old system has not been properly maintained. And we started this before I got on the council, and we will be completing it. We will begin the final process to complete it in spring of 2027 when we finish our PFAS remediation program.
Thank you, Mr. Mortimer.
I am absolutely not in favor of selling off Ridgewood Water. It is an asset, as Paul said, and I think, too, it's the home rule that we have. You know, PFAS is an issue in our drinking water, and Rich Calby saw that, looked into the future and said we have to start planning for it now. And I just can't imagine that if we sold it into a big conglomerate that they're going to care about us in the same way of people that live in our community. And also, I would say, was I prepared to join the council, I made an appointment to meet with Rich Calby at Ridgewood Water. And everyone watching, both at home and here, I would encourage you to do the same by sitting down with Rich, and he can explain to you all the things that Ridgewood Water is doing and how they're ahead of the curve. And the proof statement of that is that he was asked to speak in Washington, and he received an award. That's the kind of thing that Ridgewood should own, because it's going to benefit us now and long into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perrin.
When I was a director for the League of Women Voters, my portfolio was I started the Water Committee, and we worked with Ridgewood Water and put on forums, and I got to know them very well. It is one of the basic tenets of the League of Women Voters that a government should provide this basic service. And I am completely opposed to privatizing Ridgewood Water. Would you want to privatize our military at the federal level? No. We're not going to do that at the municipal level.
Thank you. Ms. Kwok?
Contemplating selling Ridgewood Water would be a short-term, short-sighted gain. There are two reasons why I support maintaining Ridgewood Water within municipal control. One, it is cash flow positive. Secondly, having control of a core essential service like water is a desirable trait of a village. And so this is, for that reason, I would definitely not explore selling off Ridgewood Water, which is an asset. In terms of the PFAS treatment, that there is a plan for it where it's already underway. And so for all those reasons, Ridgewood Water should be under Village Council control.
Great, thank you. No rebuttals. Next question. What can be done to improve the central business district? Mr. Mortimer?
I wish Pam would go first on this because she's the liaison and she's going to say a lot of great things. So I don't want to steal her thunder, but I will say this, is that What makes Ridgewood so special is our downtown. That's the heart and soul of what we are. And so what we have to do is we have to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to make it easy for businesses to open and do business there. So I'm going to just say I'm supportive of it, and I want everyone to hear what Pam has to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, with that, Ms. Perrin, 1 minute.
I've been the council liaison to the Chamber of Commerce, to the Central Business District Advisory Committee, and now to the steering committee that is conducting the feasibility study for creating a special improvement district for our commercial community, for our business community. And the thing that other towns in New Jersey, Montclair, Princeton, Summit are doing is SIDS. And this is a very special animal. It's like a gift from the legislature that they created so that we could raise enough money to pursue economic development and do better marketing and improve the capital, make capital improvements. This is something we need to try. Since the recession in 2008, since the advent of online shopping, and the horrible effects of COVID on our commercial community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kwok.
Our charming downtown is one of Ridgewood's most critical assets. I have a vision for a vibrant downtown shaped by my small business experience and investments, and that's aimed at deepening the visitor engagement. We need to draw people to our downtown. We can achieve this by offering a variety of potential everyday experiences and with special events. And I mean a variety, I mean a diverse portfolio of offerings, whether it be through different cuisines, retail and services that will help. And once people are in the downtown, we can cross-promote other businesses through tools like cross-coupons and a user-friendly digital street map, guiding visitors to all the ways they can enjoy our beautiful downtown. Special events like the Ridgewood Luna Festival, which I co-founded, brings the community together and showcases a welcoming village.
Thank you, Mr. Vagianos.
Yes, thank you. I've been doing this for almost 30 years, and I've watched the economy for downtowns evolve all over New Jersey. We are now trying to adapt in a new Amazon-based economy, and I have to say that Pam Perrin's initiative of what used to be called a business improvement district, which is a self-funding vehicle that allows landlords and businesses to fund marketing so that they can get the word out that this is the restaurant capital and downtown capital of northern New Jersey. It is the future. But in the meantime, we've done so much. One of the things is we already passed a new zoning ordinance that makes it easier for businesses to open in towns. We planted all new trees in the central business district. We put all new trash and recycling receptacles there to clean the place up. We've expanded dining corrals. We brought back dining corrals, and we expanded outdoor dining to be year-round, and we are finally knocking down the town garage that's been an eyesore for almost 20 years.
Thank you. Mr. Mortimer.
Yeah, I just
30
want to add,
seconds.
now that we heard Pam's great ideas, that I am a member of the Ridgewood Guild, and their mission is to revitalize Ridgewood. And so I believe that actions speak louder than words, and that's why I'm a member of that, so I can do my part myself in helping Ridgewood. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Kwok, 30 seconds.
How many? 30, okay. So as part of my investments, I'm actually involved in a special improvement district and a SID. And what it actually is, so we just need to be very careful with it. What it is an extra tax on the business owners. It is a tax. So when some of our investments were levied with the SID, it felt like it was a way for us to end up paying for services that should have been provided by the municipal entity. So if a SID is seriously contemplated, I can help in that regard. I have direct experience. And what we need to be careful with is, one, having a sunset clause on when that SID would expire and actual deliverables on what this SID would do above and beyond what the municipal government should be doing.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, next question. What has been the reason for tax increases over the last 4 years? If keeping tax increases under the rate of inflation is the goal, will you promise that formula going forward with low inflation expected? Ms. Perrin?
I don't think we should tie our hands. I want to keep our tax increases low, but what if there's another COVID? We have a very good CFO who guides us in formulating the budget, and we can't predict the future, so I don't want to make any promises, though I am very proud of the fact that we have kept the rate of tax increase below the rate of inflation.
Thank you. Ms. Quack?
So to say that we are above moderately below the rate of inflation, it's not the ideal benchmark because we've experienced the highest inflationary environment in recent times. What we need to think about is efficient allocation of the taxpayer funds, whether it be having prioritizing the resident needs and being really understanding of where there are opportunities to be more efficient without cutting necessary services. I've accomplished that at the Ridgewood Board of Education, where we have really managed to allocate and focus the spending on where it matters most. We expanded programming, we improved the rankings, and we kept the school tax increases, which is 2/3 of our property taxes. We kept that at 2% each year of my tenure there.
Thank you. Mr. Vagianos?
Would you mind repeating the question?
Sure. What has been the reason for tax increases over the last 4 years? If keeping taxes under the rate of inflation, I'm sorry, I need to put my glasses on. If keeping tax increases under the rate of inflation is the goal, will you promise that formula going forward with low inflation expected?
Yeah, Pam said it best, to tie your hands, not knowing what is coming down the road, what contract negotiations, what healthcare increases, which last year were 22%, and then that takes a chunk out of some other department. Is that the goal? Absolutely. Did we achieve it? We absolutely did. When inflation was 4%, we brought in a budget that was 2.74%. And I believe that we can do that year after year after year. Will there be an exception? Let's hope not, but there could be.
Thank you. Mr. Mortimer?
Yeah, I think it's a nice goal to have, but I wouldn't make it formal because, as Pam said so well, we don't want to tie our hands. But I do think what's important to note is how our disciplined budget management has really helped achieve this as we think through the future. We have a surplus of over $3 million that's built up over the last 3 years, and we've created sinking funds thinking in the future if like for fire trucks, right? Fire trucks have a lifetime. So if we start allocating the money now, then that means that when it finally breaks down, that we've already had that money put away so we won't have to raise taxes. So I think it's by being smart, then that way is how we can get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Any rebut? Mr. Vagianos?
Yes, I'd
30
like to rebut
seconds.
something that Hanju said in terms of keeping programs in place. Hanju, when you came on, there was a student-teacher ratio of 13-1. Today, it is 16-1. You have a 2% annual cap. That's a hard cap. And as we all know, salaries are the biggest part of everyone's budget. And so, you know, that's an issue.
Okay.
Is the question done?
I'm sorry.
Is the question completed?
Yes, 30
Okay.
seconds.
Okay, great. Thank you for the opportunity. We do have a 2% annual cap. There are waivers to go around it, but what we've been able to accomplish through diligence is to really, like I said, focus on spending on where it matters most for the student experience. I don't know the numbers of 13.1 to 16.1. You may be including, I'm not sure where those numbers came from, mainly because our enrollment has actually stepped down a little bit. In terms of salaries, that's where I've actually been able to help. Exactly, salaries are a fixed cost. It is about 2/3 of our school budget. And in 2021, I led the school teacher contract negotiations, and we settled at a very fair rate for both parties
Thank
ahead
you.
of its expiration for the first time in 18 years.
Thank you.
During the lifetime of that contract,
Thank
we did
you.
not lay off one teacher. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Another question. With the Upper Ridgewood Community Church for sale and on multiple listing offered as flexible zoning and commercial in a totally residential neighborhood, what is your position for these very concerned neighbors of over 1,000 households? Mr. Mortimer?
Interesting question. So, as I said, I used to, Ridgewood's the first place that feels like home for me. I actually lived in Hohokus, where a church was trying to come into a residential neighborhood. So I feel for those neighbors of that church, because once it's zoned as a church, there's very little oversight that we can do. If it goes, I would be totally against it going commercial, and I believe that if it's zoned as a church, it would have to be rezoned as commercial. So as far as anything other than a church, no way. As far as keeping it as a church, again, because it's already zoned as that, there's not much we can do. But I fully support, and if elected, I would ask all those neighbors to make sure that they contact me, because I have fought this before, and I will help you here too.
Thank you. Ms. Perrin?
In my discussions with people involved, I've learned that it is most likely to be sold, to be subdivided into 2 homes. It's about that size. Because there's very little parking there, it's most likely going to be residential in any event.
Thank you. Mr. Vagianos?
I can't really comment on this. The zoning board is a quasi-judicial board. As a member of the council, we appoint people to that quasi-judicial board. What they do is final as far as the village is concerned. If I comment on that, now it sends a chilling effect to them as to whether or not they might be reappointed. So while I may have strong feelings about that, anything that goes before the Zoning Board of Adjustment, I cannot ethically, legally, or morally comment on publicly.
Thank you. Mr. Mortimer?
I'm sorry, Ms. Quack.
That's an interesting question. You know, it's anytime a church no longer is able to serve the community, it's a loss. It's a loss for the community, and I'm sorry to see that church not be able to sustain. In terms of, it is a zoning question. I would have to defer to what the board determines based on the master plan and the zoning code. The idea of having commercial would not be something I could support in terms of rezoning it outside of the church use, and having a 2-home solution there it seems to be compatible with a residential neighborhood.
Thank you. Any other comment? Okay, next question. Glen Rock, with half the population of Ridgewood, has 7 council members. Ridgewood has 5. Would you support an expanded council? Why or why not? Mr. Vagianos?
You know, that's an interesting question, and I remember Pam and I discussed this when we first got on the council. This system has worked well here in Ridgewood for many, many years. Almost 50 years ago, I served on the Fort Lee Board of Education, where there were 9 members. It was a lot. 7 members does not seem unreasonable. I think that our 5-member council has worked well. Would I be open to that discussion? I would be open to that discussion.
Thank you. Ms. Perrin?
This is a time-consuming job, and I think when this council was first constituted, 100 years ago, it was a part-time job. You did it when you got home from work. It's more than that now. It's a lot more than that now. So I would certainly consider moving to 7 council members. However, that would make the meetings longer. And the meetings are long enough as they are. So I can't say I'm pro or con at the moment.
Thank you. Ms. Quack?
I think when you talk about changing the governance structure, expanding the board or the council, there has to be a compelling reason. There is some efficiency in decision-making when you have a 5-member board. To go from 7 to 9 when the population hasn't increased, or there hasn't been any changes within the community, it just begs the question, what do you derive? What are the benefits of going to a larger board? At this point, it's difficult to get people to run for office. So what I fear, and I've seen that in another Board of Ed actually, in another municipality, they expanded the board. Next year, they had no candidates. I'm hoping people will step up to always run to serve at Ridgewood, but that's several factors will go into any decisions in terms of contemplating expanding the village council.
Thank you. Mr. Mortimer.
Yeah, I'd have to say that I don't see what the benefit would be, so I do agree with that. Like yeah, okay, so we have more people, we have more voices, but then that leads, like they said, longer meetings, and then also building consensus. It's worked for over 100 years, and I just don't see the benefit of having more people. So I'm going to say no. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Vagianos, 30 seconds.
I have a rebuttal that's in support of what Hunju said, because it made me think that right now there are 3 council positions open and 3 Board of Education positions open. So for those 6 positions, we have fielded a total of 7 candidates. There is no opposition to the Board of Education. Getting people to do this job, not so easy. So it's certainly something we will have to consider, should we consider this as an option.
Thank you. Okay, next question. For each of you, what are your 3 top priorities for the village in the next 4 years? Ms. Quack?
My priorities are, number 1, efficient allocation of tax dollars, making sure that our dollars go further, and containing our property tax increases without reducing the quality of the services. Number 2, environmental safety. That encompasses flood mitigation efforts, environmental health, soil health, clean water, and infrastructure improvements for road safety. And the 3rd is open governance. Listening to you, making sure that your voices are heard and that resident input is respected and is part of our decision-making process if I'm elected to village council.
Thank you. Mr. Mortimer.
Yeah, the 3 things I run, I always said the first one, which is pedestrian safety, and I went into my reasons for that. Second is flooding. Flooding is getting worse because of the climate crisis that we're in, and it's affecting residential neighborhoods at an alarming rate, as well as village and Board of Ed properties. And so, why I'm proud to be on Green Ridgewood and serve that with Pam is that that's an organization that's trying to help find answers for our village. And so I really am supportive of doing something that we can, which includes staying on top of the Army Corps of Engineers to make sure that they provide us with solutions, as well as Green Ridgewood brought in grad students from Columbia University to give us ideas. And we have to do that. We have to do the little things and the big things, because it's going to keep happening, and that's detrimental to our village. The 3rd thing would be environmental leadership. Again, I'm on the Green team, I'm on Parks and Rec, and the environmental issues are so important, which also gets into the tree canopy we talked about before. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Perrin.
Okay, in my opening statement, I mentioned 3 things, the budget, revitalizing downtown, and environmental things. But there are so many other urgent things that I can't just keep it to 3. There are the invasive plants that are decimating our parks. If we don't address them in the next few years, we will not have recognizable wildscapes. And also, I want to finish Shedler. I want to get this done. And I want our kids playing there. And I'll take another one. Town Garage. Let's get that cleaned up and get moving on making it into something that is a productive and useful area.
Thank you. Mr. Vagianos.
Yeah, knocking this down to 3 is really tough. I'm gonna give you 5. First, number 1, transitioning the Warner Theater into a performing arts center. It is the linchpin of our central business district. It is everything we need and want and love. It's left a gaping hole in our downtown, and we need to fix that. Next, we need to fix our water infrastructure, which we've already started on, and we're going to continue because it's been neglected for decades. Next, I agree with Pam, Shedler, we got to finish that. That's been hanging around for 15 years. It's got to get done. Next, transitioning our vehicle fleet from gas to electric. You want to be green, you want to save the environment, this is what we need to do. Oh, and by the way, it's going to save us a fortune down the road. There are bigger upfront costs that go down over time. And then finally, and maybe most importantly for me, is continuing the fight against online bullying. This is the community of Tyler Clementi. Do we not remember how important this is and that what we say online has consequences? We are better than that. We are Ridgewood. We are going to end this.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Kwok, 30 seconds.
I have a rebuttal about the Shedler. If the goal is to complete the Shedler development, there is a plan in place that could get it done immediately. We have the funding and the state approvals for the 2017 plan with the right size field. So if the goal is to complete it, you have low-hanging fruit. There's a plan already in place.
Thank you. This could be an easy response. There has been, or not, but there has been some candidate cyberbullying recently. Can you just address that briefly, Ms. Kwok?
Yeah, actually, thank you for the question. I think it is so interesting and not interesting. I think it speaks to the environment that when a resident speaks up in the private capacity, a candidate will identify that individual by name simply for doing his or her civic responsibility. What does that tell you? That is a chilling effect on governance, on engaging with potential voters when you identify an individual simply for disagreeing or for whatever benefit. Since that's a kind of divisiveness that we need to rise above. We really need to celebrate diversity of opinions and not divisiveness, and not be an instrument of divisiveness.
Thank you, Ms. Perrin.
I object to the Ridgewood blog posing as a government mouthpiece, and I would look into the legality of that that instrument of bullying, whether it's legal or not.
Thank you, Mr. Bagianos.
You know, diversity of opinions is something that everybody supports. Freedom of speech is something that everybody supports. Discussing issues is something that everybody supports. Going after people personally, going after their children, going after their jobs is not what we do here in town. And yet, there are people who do that year after year, day after day, and it's got to end. It sends a chill. You talk about a chilling effect? That's the chilling effect. People say, yeah, I'm not going to get involved in this because that guy might go after me next, and I don't want to be involved in that. That is uncalled for, and to hide behind the term diversity of opinion. We all have diversities of opinion. My wife and I have diversity of opinion every day. But we don't make it personal, because that's the road to the end. And so I just can't accept that.
Thank you. Mr. Mortimer.
Thank you. I find it interesting that the cyberbullying was, Ms. Kwok said it was a differing of opinion. What cyberbullying is that somebody went after my job, and they also went after, I'm a published author, went to my publisher to also impact my livelihood. And I'm sorry, we're up here because we love Ridgewood and we want to help Ridgewood. And to come after somebody's job, that's just not right. And Ridgewood, we are one of the greatest towns in America, and to have to put up with that, and like we said earlier, that there's not enough people running for office. Why do you think that is? It's because the same cyberbully, it's constantly making people afraid to step up. And I'm proud of what I did, and I stood up because I want to give that strength back to our community to know that you will not be bullied, that the good people of Ridgewood have said, we have had enough of this, and we are going to rise above it and show the world that Ridgewood is better than any of that nastiness that's online, and that starts by electing me. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes the questions from the audience as we're getting close to 9 o'clock. But before we go into closing statements, I'd just like to remind you and thank you for all your questions. Just some of the topics that we've heard about tonight. Of course, the Schindler property, ADUs, the senior programs, the trees, the cannabis, yes or no, outsourcing of the water, the central business district, tax increases, the church being sold, increase in your council numbers, and the priorities of the individuals running for council, as well as the last issue on cyberbullying. So thank you so much for your questions and your answers. So we're going to go into closing statements, and we're going to be doing alphabetical order at the end. So Ms. Kwok, you have 1.5 minutes.
Thank you for your time and
Oh, I'm
attention.
sorry, I'm so used to the 1 minute, I apologize. 1 minute, I'm sure you've timed it.
Okay. Thank you for your time and attention. Over the past 4 years on the Board of Education, including serving as president, I've worked with my fellow board members to enhance programs, improve rankings, while keeping school taxes at 2% or lower each year. This commitment to fiscal efficiency is what you can expect from me if I'm elected to Village Council. I will prioritize environmental safety and protect our beautiful neighborhoods. I have a vision for downtown Ridgewood from my small business background and investments. Throughout, you can always count on me to act with transparency and accountability. Diversity of perspectives leads to stronger decisions. 3 of 5 seats are open in this election, so your voice will shape the future of Ridgewood for 4 years, and whether we have an open dialogue on issues. With the honor of your 1 vote, I will ensure that we have diversity of opinions at the table. Vote Hyunju Kwak, public servant with a proven track record.
Mr. Mortimer, 1 minute.
I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on. This is democracy in action, and it's awesome. I'd also like to thank everyone that came out tonight to be here, as well as the people that are at home. I mostly would like to thank my family and friends for their support, so thank you. As a 13-year Ridgewood resident, I've been actively engaged in boards and committees and activities since 2017. I'm dedicated to giving back. I'm passionate to help whenever and wherever I can, as evident by the involvement in so many causes and groups that I've been part of. Our village council is a working council. I've already served on many of these boards and committees that I would be interfacing with. I know what's required of the position, and I have long-standing relationships with many of the people that I would be working with. My record shows that I bring a roll-up-the-sleeves and get-it-done attitude to everything I do, and I will bring that same approach to the village council. And on November 5th, I hope I have your support, and you'll vote Mortimer for village council. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Perrin, 1 minute.
Paul and I used to be in the minority, but since 2023, we've been able to accomplish a whole lot in town. We brought back civility and hybrid access. We hired a new village manager and completely revamped communications. As a result, we've been able to gain consensus to accomplish an extraordinary number of projects in just 2 years, even though we often disagree. We have listened, we have heard, and we have taken action on issues that residents have brought up. Our village manager helps us respond quickly with full explanation of whatever it is, and we accomplish things that have stumped prior councils, like buying the town garage. This lets residents know that we respect them and we hear them, and that's having a positive impact. Now we see the people who used to complain are volunteering on Citizen Safety Advisory Council or on Shade Tree Commission. We can work with you. Therefore, I respectfully ask that for your vote for Pam Perrin, Paul Vagianos, and Frank Mortimer.
Thank you. Mr. Vagianos, 1 minute.
You're going to be able to tell that Pam and I work together. A couple of years ago, I ran for council and was honored to be elected mayor by that council. And the new adventure began. The first thing we did was we opened the doors to Village Hall wide so everyone could see what's going on inside. We started with hybrid access so people could participate in council meetings from home. And then we launched a new website, weekly newsletters, quarterly newsletters from me, social media postings. And we hired a director of communications so everyone could know what's going on in here. And then we hired new management and we changed the way this village does business. We hired the best manager in the state of New Jersey. But what I am most proud of is that we have changed the tone of the dialogue at Village Hall. We brought respect back to these chambers in this room. And yet we are 5 completely different people on this council who don't agree on every issue. But we get more done than any council in recent memory because we can work together. Thank you all so much for attending tonight. It has been our honor to be here.
I'd like to thank Joan Burns and the committee for working on this event. And our moderator, Ms. Sidro, thank you. I actually have to clarify one thing that Ms. Sidro mentioned, which was you may vote for up to 3 candidates. It's not required to vote for 3 candidates, up to. You did say that, okay. And I want to thank everybody for coming. Great to see everybody. And thank you so much to the candidates for your very fact-based, issues-focused answers. Really greatly appreciated. Have a good night.